3, 2, 1. There we go. Hey, this is Jonathan Albin, and this is the Nycos RPG website, currently called Passages. I've had some issues with explaining exactly what I mean because I've been so excited about the development of the system itself that I got over enthusiastic in that way. The Nycos roleplay game system, the entire game mechanism, includes far more than just the simple description of how you would play the game in a fantasy setting. Allow me to explain by giving you some visuals here. So, we've heard the name Nycos. I use it all the time. What is Nycos? Nycos is the game world. I'm pointing as always. There we go. There we go. Nycos is the game world itself. It has existed since the 1970s. I started storytelling way back in the archaic days when the dice were crystallized and could actually break if you threw them too hard, and didn't have any color in them. You had to paint them yourself and such like. As a matter of fact, I felt like I was an innovator even back then because all of my friends were using wax crayon to fill them in, and then they would wear off and you have to color it in again. I got clever and I used my mother's paint and nail polish and filled mine in, and they stayed indelible for forever. So, and maybe that also is possibly why my dice lasted a little bit longer, because maybe that acetate in there just, I don't know. I'm just kidding. So, Nycos is the world. Well, there are two other terms that I sometimes use when talking about the Nycos system and that such like. And the next one is actually the Passages RPG system. And that is the bare bones mechanistic bottom in terms of what you must have to understand the play. I equate it specifically to THACO. I don't know how many of you will remember that. And I don't even know what if you notice, by the way, I've now added the ability for subtitles because I have several friends who have vision problems and can't see what I'm looking at or can't see what I'm showing. And also I have some friends that have audio problems. They can't quite discern. I mean, it's not that I mumble too badly, but they have difficulty discerning the terms, and so by having the text-capable function down below, it's been really helpful for them. Plus, if you are one of those persons that doesn't turn the volume up, you don't raise the volume so you can hear, then, of course, I'm at least getting my words to your eyes, so that at least helps some. So, Nycos is the game's world, Passages is the skeletal mechanism that makes it operate, and hence the term the Passages. And then finally, the next part is the actual revelatory piece, and that is the system books. And the first of these under the Nycos system will be the Dark Shards. And the Dark Shards is the fantastic setting of Nycos. So the circle is complete. You have the game world that spawned the mechanistic system that therefore defines itself in the Dark Shards property, which is the issue that's coming up down the road. So, I just said, as my grandfather would say, I said all of that to say this. Welcome to the revolution. Now, I know there are 100 different, no, there's more than that. I used to work with the Game Manufacturers Association long ago, and even in those days there were hundreds and hundreds of game companies out there producing their own intricate differences of role-play games. There were, from the big obvious ones that people know about today, like Pathfinder or Rifts. You can go back into time forever and you'll find that there's a Fate system, a D6 system called Savage Worlds. And I may have just misspoken. So again, if you want to make any comments to me in the chat, just simply hit the subscribe button down below, become part of what we're doing, and that way you'll start getting updates on when I'm going to be doing different videos and such like. But it'll also give you the access to the chat room so that you can countermand me and shout me down when I make a mistake, which I think I just did. But the Fate system, Savage Worlds, there was Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes for a while. Just every player who has any creative juices in them at all generally creates homebrew rules that modify a game they're familiar with, or they start fiddling with their own version of games. And the reason why it's taken so long for me to get this new system out has everything to do with my understanding of how roleplay works and its intricate ties to the past. If you haven't seen it, check out my Passages Explainer video. It really isn't it's more of an explainer of the state as was, as compared to the detailed input to what Passages is. But it does go into the reality that roleplay game systems have been influenced, I wouldn't say unduly, but they've been influenced strongly by war games mechanisms going all the way back to World War II, and haven't really broken out of that. And that is what this system, the Passages mechanism, the Dark Shards material, and Nycos RPG is all about. So there will be a change in the short future when I put the name back to Nycos RPG, because I should never have abandoned that. That's another whole story. That was a confusion in my own head, and I also had gotten some bad advice, but that's what happens sometimes. Now, I'm not sure if this video is having difficulty or whether it's just working fine and I'm just watching the text flow by. So if there's anybody out there that wants to introduce or add to this conversation, please feel to jump into the stream. I'll answer your questions and try to keep the information flowing for you. If you are just now jumping on, we are talking about the Nycos RPG and the upcoming potential launch, or the upcoming launch of the Dark Shards system book for the Passages system. So the lore, the depth of the lore itself is, to me, the crowning achievement. To others, it may be perhaps daunting, but the mechanistic element by which I have created the roleplay game system that my players love is that I created a 6.5 year long story arc. And measuring a campaign in time is kind of like dividing speed traveled by distance, like or by time itself. I don't know. I still don't understand the whole parsecs argument, but the idea here is that time here is referencing how many games it would take to play through, kind of like the how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. Well, the campaign arc is 6.5 years. If you played every week for that period, you'd be able to get through the entire story. Therefore, the story itself, as an element, is incredibly rich. Now, what pushes this systems, what pushes the lore portion of this over the cliff and makes it just amazing, is that I have run the same story arc on the same world in linear order from that point in time when I started it in 1974-ish, 75, until the present, and we have now operated through 8 iterations. We are finishing up the 8th time through the arc, and so we are in the dramatic portions of the end of the campaign, so to speak. But this campaign started, this time around, started 2018, 2019, something like that. No, more than that. My math. 22 minus 6. 2016 is when we started. Wow, I'm so professional. Can't you just appreciate how professionally I'm speaking here? I'd say I'm speaking off the cuff, but today I'm not wearing any cuffs. So, and none of those questions. No. So, with the understanding that the roleplay system encompasses that much lore, means that the story of Nycos, the actual original arc, is somewhere embedded in the materials. And what is revolutionary, the biggest, most revolutionary thing about the Nycos RPG system is that, wow, that is a really good question. What is the most innovative? I would say the concept of a system that doesn't depend on a pool of life points. I know that's, people are going to go, well, I'm out of here. If you're not going to have hit points, I don't want to play. I don't know what. People will only say that if they haven't considered the alternatives. And as Inigo Montoya would say, this I have. I have considered it. And so the system looks at life essence more as a pressure gauge than a pool. That's the easiest way to say it. The second, I notice I'm moving my hands around way too much today. I'm really excited. I don't know if you can tell, bouncing off the wall here. So there's also an innovation in the dice rolling mechanic. And yes, the simple answer is it's a percentage-based system with a tiny asterisk behind it that I will not be revealing until after I have a conversation on Monday with some very important people that will guide me in the direction that I need to go with that. But the mechanic of the game, the mechanism of the game, is that it never stops progressing. Players choose their direction, choose the skills that they want to learn, the training they want to receive, the direction they want to go, and they do this without the externalized burden of class structure. You can literally be whom you want to be in the system without any requirement to hold on to a class or a defining pathway. Hence the concept of the name passages has more to do with the fact that this is not going to be limited to the fantasy realm. This is going to also include other genre. Basically, as we progress, those become revealed. But the verbalized pauses need to stop. I'm working on it. I really am. I've been a public speaker for a long time, and I know better, and I still catch myself drifting into them sometimes. So hold my feet to the fire, and if you are viewing this right now while I'm recording it, and you want to make a comment and give me grief over it, please do, because that'll tighten my verbal skills up quite a bit to know I'm being held accountable. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hop in and take me to task. By the way, the boundary behind me that you see with these and these colored veils, they're the representative of something else that's an innovation in the system, and that is a means of stepping away from character identification by moral compass. And I don't mean to say that in a way that means that the game has gone off the rails, but rather the very concept of self-guidance, self-development, self-advancement is associated with philosophies that have been established to the point of collectively becoming a pantheon, almost in the way that a religion or a series of religious orders might come together. So the colors of the rainbow, represented by the colors behind me, from white, green, gray, I'm on the wrong side, white, green, gray, orange, black, yellow or amber, get my head out of the way, red, purple, blue, and blue. Red, blue, purple, indigo. The colors in shades that represent the order of the veils is a revolutionary way of looking at cultures. And instead of seeing the ethnicities as being associated with something stronger, instead they are just defining the way in which one person, way an individual embraces life. And it's worked really well, and I believe that it'll kind of help to ease this transition, because it does give a framework for looking at identity in a different way, instead of being bounded and limited by current history. It's an open environment. You can literally go in any direction with it. As a matter of fact, the lore of the story does just that. So the 6.5-year tale leads you through the awareness gapping from the old ways to the new. A spoiler, I suppose. No, it can't be a spoiler if you're not available to see it. So now, the world of Nycos, therefore, going back to the map, is only understandable or it's only really useful if you're going to run your adventures and campaigns in that setting. And so the rules system, Passages RPG system, is actually set up to be independent, so that you don't need any of the lore of Nycos if you wanted to. I've had people actually tell me, and this has been a kind of a point of contention. They asked one time if I would run a series of adventures as a game master with 100% less Nycos in the game. What they were referring to is that they wanted a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules as written, mechanized, soulless, vapid, flat game. Wanted to use the rules of the game as written instead of doing so to carry forward the story of the game, which is ultimately what I've always done with every game I've ever run. But instead they wanted me to create a gameplay environment devoid of anything other than the limiting and bounding rules, so that they could basically knock down doors and kill monsters without any reference to story at all. So anyway, so now, wow, I'm going to get off that soapbox right now. The mechanism here is actually made so that it can be run devoid of the lore, if that's the choice you make about how you want to do it. It does give recommendations on how to build your own mechanisms. It gives tools for running freestyle, fast and loose, rules as, rule of cool, or conversely does have enough chunky, meaty bits, so to speak, to appeal to the more strident, I must play by the rules kind of storyteller. The material that I had to go through today, again, just like the last couple of episodes, yes, I'm just blowing right through it. So I'm going to do something I haven't done before, and I'm going to extend the direction that we're going, and I'm going to play a little bit of it's a larval stage training video or an instructional video on the Passages RPG system. I'm going to run it as an MP4 so that you guys can see the pages. It's basically been a screen dump from the back end of the Dark Shards RPG mechanism that I'm creating. So let me pull that up here. Alrighty, so it's operating, if you're not familiar with the World Anvil mechanism, I should put a big shout out here to them. WorldAnvil.com is a great resource for storytellers, game masters, novelists, etc., to create a safe space, almost like a Wikipedia for their own world developing place. And so I do have a full disclosure, I do have a very good relationship with them, and in the future perhaps we will have some form of something beyond the unsolicited endorsements. I'm endorsing their product without any. There's no economic tie for me. Nothing. No shine. No polish on my nose, so to speak, on this. I just really appreciate how well World Anvil has worked for allowing me to expand and create, to the point where I actually built the role-playing mechanism for Passages inside of a world builder, instead of creating a world builder and then only throwing up the lore portion. So, having said that, I want to talk about the fact that when I start this, let's see, is it already operating? It's not. So I gotta move B out of the way here. Is it letting it run? It is, I think. Let me get my face out of the way. No. Well, I'm not very good with this. Anyway, no. For that part, I'm not anyway. Yeah, I'm going to just let that go. So I'm not going to have a lot more material to cover since I can't get that functioning to work. The idea, though, is that the mechanism of Dark Shards is set up so that the player is constantly progressing on his pathway towards greatness in literally any direction that he wants to go. The story, the lore depth is so deep that a storyteller can literally jump in and have everything developed for him, and he can just pick a direction and go as well, so he doesn't have to do a lot of the legwork and creativity if he doesn't want to, while the system is open-ended enough and embraces other ideas to the point where it can be used in literally any other world mechanism. So with that, and my time's down, I've cut it to 20 minutes. That's not what I would have wanted to do, but here we are. And don't forget, if you watch this video and want more information, the easiest way is to go to www.patreon.com/Nycos, and there's information right off the face of that. That'll give you some information about where we're going and how it came to be. And once you have if you decide to assist us with this advancement and join, then you actually not only get access. I can't believe this. There's a fly. That's what I've been messing with. Once you've supported the program, if you do, then you get not only access to the information on the Patreon site, but you also gain access to our Discord, so you can actually get some behind-the-scenes information from me. You can get involved with some of the potential developing things that are going to be happening in the future. So, for example, we're looking at the possibility of eventually going back to a live stream or multiple live stream RPGs. And the last thing you get as being part of the Patreon is that you actually get access to the Dark Shards on World Anvil, and therefore you're able to preview it, literally play with it, see how it goes before we go any further on its development. Now, I have so many huge plans for this that I actually do kind of like verbal jam sessions on our Discord. So that's also something that gets involved once you have either assisted us with the Patreon, or if you simply do things like subscribe to this channel and mention the Discord in the chat below. I will endeavor to contact you and get you that information, because I believe that those of you who are watching our information and gobbling it up are going to see how quickly we are going to create this revolution, this change in the way roleplay is done. I actually succeeded in getting almost to a half an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and end it at this point. Thank you very much for your participation and viewership. I look forward to speaking with you at some point in the future. And as I said, check out the Patreon, and my email address is gamemarketguru@gmail.com or nycosrpg@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Have a great day.